Welcome to There's a Method to the Madness. My name is Rob Maxwell. I'm an exercise physiologist and personal trainer. I'm the owner of Maxwell's fitness programs, and I've been in business since 1994. The purpose of my podcast is to get to the real deal of what really works, and most importantly, why things work or may not work. Hence the name, there is a method to the madness. So today I'm going to cover that topic everybody loves so much, which is just how do I frickin' eat? How do I lose weight? What am I supposed to eat? What's all this BS? So you're just going to have to hang on, and I'll go through what we're going to talk about. Before I do, let me thank our wonderful first committed sponsors, Jonathan and Lynn Gilden of the Gilden Group at Realty Pros. They are committed to providing the highest level of customer service and home selling, and they have the sales and the reviews to back it up. Even with the slower market right now, they are still selling because they know what they're doing. 386-451-2412 is how you can get them to help you know what you're doing when it comes to selling your house. So let's talk about how do we eat, why are all these different opinions out there, and are there any rules to follow? All that good stuff. So I was sitting around and I was talking to a friend the other day, and we're talking about nutrition, and this topic came up a little bit, and I thought, you know what, this was a good conversation. This is like things that we just know that I don't think everybody knows, or at least they don't know it well enough to practice. So I decided I need to kind of turn this into a podcast. So let me first start by saying that there are certain foods in our diet, in our American diet, I suppose. I guess it's not just us anymore, but let's just say in our diet. Let's keep it simple like that. There are foods that are just simply like hard yeses, meaning I think almost everybody knows that it's good for them. And most importantly, it is good for you. There's just really no debate on it. And then there are foods that are hard no's. There's no debate on that. We just know that, and we're fooling ourselves if we think it's okay. And I don't even think that happens. I just think that the hard no foods are people that do eat them, just they know it's bad, and they're I'm going to do this just short term, or they don't care. And then there are a lot of foods, and there's probably more foods on this list of maybe, there's debate over it. There's plausible reasons why it may be good, and there's plausible reasons why it may not be so good. So the goal of this podcast today is to help you to navigate this world so you can make choices. The ones that say hard yes, it's a simple rule, eat it. The ones that are hard no, simple rule, don't eat it. And the ones that are a hard maybe, well, them you got to moderate. Those you need to use a little common sense and self-control. I guess you could not quit listening now and go, okay, I got the rules, but you probably need a little more information as to what these foods are and, why they were chosen. So let me start out by talking about the first thing we have to do is not get into the weeds. Even having a conversation with a friend of mine who's very knowledgeable when it comes to eating food and wellness, but even they were getting into the weeds a little bit, and I would have to kind of bring them back and go, wait a minute, you're getting into the weeds on this one. All right. We're bringing in maybe our, ethical consideration on this. We might be bringing in, what if people have food allergies in on this? You might be bringing in, what if somebody is, diabetic? It's okay, you're getting into the weeds. We can't be confusing what we're talking about here. There are known foods by anybody that has the knowledge they should have to be given advice that are simply good foods to eat when you're trying to have a heart healthy diet and lose weight. And there are foods that we should not eat when we're trying to have a heart healthy diet and lose weight. And then there are the ones, again, where both sides can come up with a little bit of an argument. But when we start bringing in those other things, like considerations of animal welfare, which I am a huge proponent of, like many or most of my choices are centered around that, because I do believe I can do what I need and do my best to try to help in that area. So that is a huge area. At the same time, if we start debating that as health coaches or personal trainers or exercise physiologists, we're getting into the weeds. In other words, that's not why people are here. That's not what they're asking you. That's not, the question that you are qualified to answer. So you're getting into the weeds on it. So with that, as an expert or a leader, you kind of have to be, just honest and go, okay, well, so that is important to you. I'm telling you how to eat to lose weight, and then you have to make that choice. Okay. And that's just one example. Another one could be food allergies. I mean, the only ones really supposed to be dealing with food allergies at all are physicians. I mean, plain and simple. So, it's out of the scope and practice of a health coach, wellness coach, exercise physiologist, even personal trainer, and God forbid, the ones that aren't even qualified, your social media influencers. It's not even in the scope of practice to be dealing with food allergies. So that shouldn't even be coming up. So that is definitely getting in the weeds. For example, it's hard to find a food that's better for you as far as heart health goes and losing weight than a low-fat Greek yogurt. I mean, that's really hard to beat. Yeah, I mean, I just kind of tipped you off. That's one of them that's, very, 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 very non-debatable when it comes to that. You might say, but I can't. I'm lactose intolerant. Okay, you're proving my point. That means you have a food allergy. Like lactose is milk sugar. That is the sugar that is in milk. If you are lactose, i.e. milk sugar intolerant, that means you have an allergy to it. That's out of the scope of practice of somebody trying to help you lose weight. You have to deal with those food allergies with your doctor and not bring that into it, because again, that's just getting into the weeds. Because again, I read and I see all the arguments online about this and that. And I'm like, wait a minute, what are you guys confusing right now? It's like two things can be true at the same time, meaning that, chicken breast can be absolutely great for you as far as a high protein food and a low calorie food. So great for weight loss. And at the same time, if you're getting your chicken from a, terrible commercial mill, that could be awful for the animals. I mean, two things can be true at the same time. So we can't get into the weeds on that. Like, we can't be arguing this food is great. And it's like, okay, well, great for what? Well, great for weight loss. That's true. Great for animal welfare. No, it's not. So we can't get into the weeds on that. So as we navigate through this podcast and try to understand where I'm coming from on this, you need to really keep that in mind when we talk about these boilerplate foods. And boilerplate item means it's non-negotiable, meaning it's just a fact and you're bringing preferences into it to try to change the fact, which again, hope you understand, I am an animal advocate. So when it comes to that, I'm on your side. But from a physiologist and trainer standpoint, I can't bias that information and be like, oh, don't do this for this. I mean, no. And don't get me wrong. There's plenty of great ways where everything can kind of happen at once, where you're getting the best food for you and, the planet's happy and the animals are happy and all this good stuff. I mean, that can be done. It just does take more work. Okay, so that's another example of getting into the weeds. And there's other allergies. I mean, there are people that say that they're, they have celiac disease or they're allergic to wheat, so a gluten allergy. It's like, so first, again, I'm not a doctor on this, but I can say that most of the research shows that most people are not. And they kind of just make up their own wheat allergy and they say, oh, it causes inflammation in me. It makes me gain weight. It's like, are you sure that's it? Or are you eating a loaf of bread at a time instead of one slice? So, a lot of times people blame it on that when in reality they're overeating it. But there are people that literally do have celiac disease, a true wheat allergy, and they can't eat it. So again, saying a food is good for health, weight loss and heart health, which basically go hand in hand, by the way, a weight loss diet and a heart health diet, pretty much low saturated fat, lean proteins, good complex, low sugar carbs. I mean, they kind of go together. Might be great, but they might have a gluten allergy, and so it's not good for them. But again, that's getting in the weeds. That's talking about two different things. And our culture lives in dichotomy all the time. Like, they don't understand that, like, it's all or nothing, and like, I got to eat, to save the planet, and that's the only way. It's like, okay, that's okay, or I'm going to do whatever I want. Okay, but we really struggle with gray area in life, and gray area is where really most of us are going to live. Like, there just aren't hard and fast rules in most cases, and we have to kind of like learn how to moderate ourselves. One of the reasons why people fall in love with diets is because they kind of prey on that all or nothing thinking, because most people are. And if you have more tendencies towards OCD, you're going to be even more like that. Like, you're just going to want to know, just tell me this and I'll do this. Oh, no carbs? Oh, I can do that. So I'm going to, get a list of what all non-carb foods are, such as, say, meat and maybe, very low density vegetables, broccoli, super low. And I'll just know to do that, and I can do that. I mean, that just doesn't work. That's like not normal, I mean, it's just not the way we're designed. Right? I mean, how we eat is often is what is around us a lot of times. I mean, so we do have control to change our environment and only bring better foods for us in, true. But as far as how we live as human beings, that's just not really the way it is. So we can't really learn to just eat this or that. We need to kind of learn how to moderate it ourselves. And then one more example of that all or nothing. In the 80s, it was just don't eat fat. Remember, for those old enough? And so everybody was eating as much basically carbohydrates as they wanted to. And Snackwells and companies like that made a fortune because, we're very gullible and believe things without kind of thinking. And I mean, in a way, I guess we should trust, but it's like, why? They're capitalism. I mean, they're not the food experts telling you to eat Snackwells. It's whoever made them. Pillsbury, I don't know who made them, but I don't know. But whoever made them, wants you to eat them. I mean, you got to be a little smarter about that. But everybody put on weight because everybody's eating whatever they want, because we just can't eat whatever we want. I mean, we just can't, all right? So the first thing is we have to make sure that we know not to get into the weeds. And I think I've explained that enough. So now let's talk about the rules. So there are foods, there's just no debate over it. I mean, there's just not a lot of debate when it comes to a heart-healthy, lose-weight diet. Again, I already got the weeds out of the way. So if you start to bring the weeds in, then, that's on you. And you weren't paying attention to the first 14 minutes. So, So again, a Greek yogurt, a low-fat or non-fat Greek yogurt. I mean, it's you're not going to get too much debate on either side when it comes to that. It's higher in good protein. It's got good carbs, meaning milk sugar, or good carbs, low glycemic index, and it's pretty low in calorie.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey, quick question for you. Are you someone who wants to be fit, healthy, and happy? And what if I told you you could get your dream body by simply just listening to a podcast? I'm Josh.
And I'm KG, and we're the hosts of the Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast.
Listen, we get it. Fitness isn't easy. Carbs, no carbs.
Just stop, okay? It doesn't have to be that complicated. And that's why we made this podcast. We get straight to the facts so you can become your best you.
So the way to check us out is click the link in the show notes or search Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast on any of the major podcast platforms. We'll see you soon.
I mean, most, if not all, vegetables are going to be in that boilerplate item of they're just good. Like, don't worry about it too much. Don't give a lot of thought. You don't have to moderate a whole lot. I mean, basically, I don't like telling people to get in the habit of doing as much as they want of anything, because if they do, maybe they just learn that habit and don't know how to turn it off on foods they shouldn't do that with. But having said that, you could eat as much broccoli as you want, or Brussels sprouts or green beans or spinach or romaine lettuce or radishes, right? So those, again, most vegetables are going to be in that category of there's just no debate over it. It's just eat them. Don't worry about it. Don't give it a lot of thought, and then you get a couple that might come up that are in the category of, well, there is a debate, and we just need to maybe learn to moderate if there's a debate. For example, corn. So corn's a vegetable, but it is higher in sugar. So one side will tell you, yeah, but that's a good sugar. It's a plant sugar. It's a grows in the ground sugar. It's a non-processed sugar. Okay, valid. Okay. Then you got, the other side that says, wait a minute, sugar, it's high in sugar. Okay, so, valid, right? So on items like that are kind of like valid, you go, well, I don't have to not eat them at all. Maybe I just don't have as much corn as I have as broccoli, right? And carrots can kind of be thrown into that same category. You're going to have two sides kind of fighting over it. Well, it's non-processed and grows in the ground. And, if you cook them, it's a lower glycemic index. You get it, all these ifs. And on the other side, you're going to be sugar, man. It's like, okay, there's that argument. And so as you can see, me being a person who has studied a lot of this and has degrees and things and certifications and licensing, I can say, well, you're both being a little silly. Why don't you just eat carrots, but maybe don't eat a whole bag of carrots at a time as much as you might eat a whole thing of broccoli. So there's foods, and I try to keep my podcasts around 25 minutes, so I can't go through every food item in the plant world and say, what is boilerplate, meaning non-negotiable, good or bad, and what are mediums, right? So, they're just things you kind of have to trust me on this and kind of do your own research and maybe do a Google list of, hey, what are the things nobody argues about, right? Because you're going to have your paleos, which is complete BS, by the way. There is no paleo diet. It depended on where they were in the world. When we were cave people, if we were around a lot of plants, we ate nothing but plants. If we were around a lot of animals, you ate what you killed. So, there's no paleo diet. It just really depended on what was around us at the time. And, we are omnivores as a species, meaning we can eat both plant and animal, but the animal has to be cooked. So, we're different, and everybody has to keep that in mind as well. Very important, by the way. I shouldn't bypass it so quickly, but at the same time, that's not what this podcast is about. And so, then we get to the meats, the animal based, and go, well, are the ones that are, boilerplate items of bad and good? Yeah, white meat, chicken, fish, turkey, is good. You can't go wrong with it. Again, I already said ethical considerations and all this. This is, take that out. That's the weeds. But as far as heart friendly, and again, don't get in the weeds with the hormones. I get it. They're bad, right? But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, what they were originally. They're good. And then I don't care who you're talking to. Beef is not healthy. It's fat. It's mostly fatty meat. Or if you got a doctor telling you to eat it as much as you want, well, you better get a new doctor, right? It's very high in saturated fat, and that's non-negotiable. Saturated fats are not good for you. They raise your triglycerides. It raises your cholesterol. It gives you a greater propensity towards obesity. Saturated fats like full fat dairy, cheeses, and beef are not good. I mean, that's just all there is to it. Am I saying never eat it? No, I never say never not do anything. I'm just saying, like, just be aware it is not a good food, no matter how you slice it. If you need it a little bit, like I guess Schwarzenegger, improved his diet as he got older, but he always felt like during his competition days he'd have one steak a week. Okay, but he knew it wasn't good. He just knew he could treat himself. I'm not saying don't. I'm just saying there are foods in the animal world that we know, don't have too many limitations on them. And then there are foods in the animal world that you definitely have to limit. And then you got your middle ground. It's a little bit, less of a middle ground with that, because when it comes to the animal kingdom, it really just comes down to the fat content in them. There are certain foods that are leaner, so you can get away with eating 8 ounces of chicken, white meat chicken, versus getting away with eating 8 ounces of beef. It just comes down to the fat, the saturated fat, which leads to more calories with it. But, there's a lot of foods out there that you're going to have to just kind of use some common sense and use some rules on. Peas, getting back to the plant kingdom. So, look, I love peas, right? But it is sort of an argued about vegetable, because you got one camp again that says, hey, man, they grow on the ground. They're non-processed, or can be or should be. And, they're good. And then you got the other camp that says, man, they're super high in sugar, which is true. I mean, they are high in sugar. So you got some validity there. But then you have to go, okay, but, maybe, eating them in moderation, like a half a cup of serving, isn't going to kill me. Of course it's not. But that's what I want you to understand, that you have to be like, there are foods I just really, if I'm trying to lose weight and get as healthy as I can, for the most part, unless it's an occasion, I'm just not going to eat. I don't care what so-and-so says, I'm just not going to eat them. I just know foods high in saturated fat, high in processed sugars. I mean, I didn't cover them because it's such a no-brainer, but everybody knows Doritos aren't good, right? Everybody knows that Pepsi Cola isn't good, right? Everybody knows that Coca-Cola isn't good. And make sure I'm not bashing one without the other. Everybody knows that chunky candy bars aren't good. M&Ms aren't good. Again, don't get into the weeds. Somebody might go, what? What about when you have a diabetic going into hypoglycemia and their sugar drops to 40 and you're not going to give them a Coke? Again, you're getting in the weeds. Of course, there's reasons for all of these things, right? Like if you're on an island somewhere and you're starving and the only thing around is this, fatty beef. I mean, I think we're going to eat it to survive. So let's not get in the weeds here. But for the most part, this junk food, candy, crackers, chips, I mean, everybody knows that's crap, right? And so you have to go, oh, okay, so that's a no bueno, except, again, it's a treat that I'm going to do in a, blue moon. It's my birthday. I'm going to have a piece of birthday cake. I mean, of course, but like as a regular staple, you're going to avoid it, right? So that's the goal today. Just understand there are foods that nobody can argue about. Both camps are going to, yeah, that's shit. That's crap, or yeah, no, that's good. That's good. And then you're going to have some that both camps kind of go, well, I don't know, like peas or carrots or white pasta. You're going to have one camp go, man, it's nothing but processed and it elevates your blood sugar high. And you're going to have another camp go, well, studies show if you cook your pasta, even white pasta, it lowers the glycemic index and it doesn't really have any sugar per se. It does raise insulin some if you're prone. There's no fat in it, so it's kind of a lower calorie, and that's valid too. So again, that's another great example of a food that you would go, oh, I'm going to moderate that. All right. So hopefully we learned something. And I guess more important than that, in all honesty, is hopefully you got something out of it that you can apply so you can start to get better. Because really it is just about getting a little bit better than we were yesterday. So hopefully you heard something that helped you to do that. Please download the episodes. Please share them to your own social media. Text them to people like I do you. It helps spread the word, helps me out. And let me help out our second sponsor, because they are the best garage door company in the state of Florida. And we're lucky enough to have Jeff and Zach Hawk, the owners here in Daytona, with their own branch here, Overhead Door of Daytona Beach. Best service, best product. give them a shout. Oh, and they are a sponsor, our main gold corporate sponsor of the MaxFit Games. And by the way, the Gildens are also a sponsor. So thank you both. If you need any help with your garage doors, give them a shout at overheaddooردaytona.com.